exclusively on the Pod Station.
Welcome, listeners, to afilmpodyssey. The two marks are back reviewing more TV shows, sitting through hours of television to bring you the best shows to watch in 2022, all to ensure you don't waste your lives watching garbage. What can I say, except you're welcome. Let me introduce my friend and co-host, Mr. Mark Pollard Ali. How are you?
All right, dude.
Welcome back.
This is like the first time we've done this in forever.
Last one was last year, I think the lockdown.
No, last one was James Bond, wasn't it?
Oh,
it was the woke fest.
I was talking about TV shows was when
Oh, yeah, we did in lockdown.
Yeah, which seems so many years ago.
We have promised ourselves we will provide a much more consistent feed of content going forward. All you three listeners, you can look forward to that.
You're aiming for a treat.
Of course, if you want more treats, then you can go and check out the Two Marks podcast feed, where we've got a Afilmpodyssey stuff where we review movies. We've got Star Trek stuff, so we do the Picard one, doing... we've got... We're laughing because I don't know how many times we've done this, but we've got about 30 episodes of Star Trek Discovery sitting there waiting for someone to edit.
It's being worked through, and I honestly know that one day we will get there. Problem is, CBS keep making more. Because if you think about it, not trying to defend myself at all, thanks to Paramount Plus, we've not covered the latest season of Star Trek Discovery.
Nope.
We didn't do Picard, even though we've got a Picard one.
Yeah.
We might do a season review, mightn't we?
I think we might do a season review of that. There's stuff out there. If you go on the Two Marks, and if you go on our social media as well, at the Two Marks, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. As I say, we've promised to do better. We appreciated the E- grade we were given, and we are going to work to improve upon said grade.
From the three listeners.
Yes.
What a focus group.
They wanted more.
There is more. Problem is, there's that much content now if you think about what we cover.
Well, we're doing the Marvel rewatch, of course, with Ish. We're up to number 10 on that. The problem is that Marvel keep on making more stuff. Yeah. So it's like one of those tunnels that keeps on getting longer as you're walking down it.
They're not seeing the light, are we?
No.
There's loads of content coming. It's just that they keep making more content.
Yeah. We apologise profusely. It's dead good. But anyway, moving on. Before we lambast ourselves even further, let's get on to the good stuff. We were trying to decide what to cover today.
Well, there's been loads of new TV shows. I think last time what we did is we did 3 shows, didn't we?
No, we didn't. We said 5. And so in preparation for this episode, I said to you, let's choose 3 each, and then we can try and keep this within a 10-hour time limit. Yeah. I turned up and Latham had done his usual Latham notes, and I said, how many have you got on there? And he said more than 4. No, you didn't. You said 4 and then turned over the second page and then admitted more than
6.
4. I turned up with no notes and quickly scribbled down some shows, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 which I'm not going to go through.
Tune into part 2 next week.
But suffice to say, we clearly spend too much time watching telly.
Between the two of us, we watch loads. Binging's been a thing for a while now, but I binge.
I binge on biscuits and chocolate and TV.
You can't tell.
No, I'm breathing in. Give you 10 seconds, it'll come out.
It'll explode. Oh, that was him unravelling.
That was me belly popping out.
Trying to keep it to 3, but failed.
We can always do a more cursed review, can't we? We'll just cut down how long we spend on each show, and then we can get through some, because I'm struggling. I was trying to pick 3. I think I've chosen 2 I would like to talk about, but I couldn't really choose on the third because there's quite a few that I'm enjoying, so I might go a bit more meaty on a couple and then just spit through. But do you know what? Let's go through our random, less organised style.
Do you want to go first, or is that going to peak you too soon?
No, well, I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
You always complain about not going first.
No, I'm happy going first. My first one that I'm going to lob into the jar is Stranger Things. I'm going very topical, very timely, going early. That came out last week.
Yes.
Is this going to be the final season?
This is part 1 of season 4, but there's a season 5, which I think is the last one.
Oh, is it? And then the kids will be too old.
Then they'll be like retired. I think season 4, from what I've read, I don't know much about it, purposely trying to avoid spoilers. I think season 4 is an anchor point to season 5, and then it will spend those 9 episodes or whatever whatever to wrap them up.
Well, I suppose I should caveat at this point, we won't do any spoilers for any of these shows that we're going to talk about. We'll just give our thoughts on how we enjoyed the series, and we'll talk as vaguely as possible about stuff, so there won't be any spoilers. Now, you haven't watched Stranger Things because you want to binge, don't you?
I haven't seen the latest series. I've seen all the others.
Okay.
So I know about the
So,
Demigorgon.
I mean, Stranger Things is a TV series, a definite watch. It's absolutely fabulous. Certainly if you were an 80s child, even 70s, 80s child, it brings back all of the feels that you had from that time. If you like E.T. and all that sort of stuff, then this is your show. It's fantastic. About a group of kids and the superpowers and evil. It's more of a horror, I'd probably say. A horror children adventure. But it's not aimed at kids, is it? It's more aimed at old fat people like me and you.
Mature content.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were born in the 80s, then old.
You are old now.
Yeah.
We have to tick the boxes that say we're old now.
If you remember the A-Team and Knight Rider, enough said.
Yeah, absolutely. First time round, not any reboots.
Yeah, the first time round.
Season 4 obviously picks up after season 3, is good and a little bit annoying in nearly equal measures, because what it does is it splits into 3 completely different storylines, which may, by some very loose story arc, bring everything back together and by the end of the season. Because I've watched the first 7 episodes of season 4, and these 3 storylines have been completely disjointed from one another, and 2 of those 3 storylines are a bit like, nah, I don't really get why we're doing this, and it's really boring and I don't really give a shit. The one other storyline is absolutely amazing, and I just want to focus entirely on that. But because they've sent characters off to different places, which is sort of what happens at the end of season 3, it almost feels like those characters had contracts that ran before season 3 and they therefore have to accommodate them. Problem is, they made a rod for their own back, and so these people are way off. If you love seasons 1 to 3, you'll love season 4, but there is a story arc involving Elle at the end of season 3, moves out to California. One of her story arcs is that her and what's lead boy's best, this is when IMDb this is when lack of absence of any sort of research.
I think at this point people know this.
Mike Wheeler is the sort of main character, and his best friend is Will what's his face?
Oh, Will what's his face?
Will Byers. So Will Byers and his mum and Elle all move out to California at the end of season 3.
Is his mum the shoplifter?
His mum is Winona Ryder.
Yeah, the shoplifter.
Yeah. Oh, was she?
She got arrested for shoplifting.
Oh, well. They're off in California, so there's a story arc following all their exploits in California. You've got the main story arc, which I think's the best one, which is in Hawkins still.
Yes.
And then you've got a third story arc, which is Jim Hopper.
Ah, okay. So they've gone a little bit like Game of Thrones did.
Yeah.
And Walking Dead have done.
Yeah.
I thought The Walking Dead did that was because of COVID, and what they were trying to do is just keep 3 actors together on set for 1 episode and then do the same with others and do it like an anthology. And then hopefully, like you say, it all comes together.
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it because it doesn't.
It's frustrating. It detracts from the main story arc, which is as cool and as fun as the previous seasons. But that being said, watch it. Move on. Your first one.
Okay, another good show. A bit of a preamble. Anyone who's familiar with the Amazon show Bosch, that's based on the books by Michael Connolly, they've done a spin-off.
Right.
Aptly titled Bosch Legacy.
Wow. They were going to the pub that day, weren't they? Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that was a beer mat, and they went, write that down. Don't forget that idea.
Or they went to the pub, got absolutely twatted, and thought, shit, we actually told the boss we were coming out to get the title. If we don't turn up on Monday morning with the title, we're in trouble, particularly because we've been putting all the booze on the business credit card.
Based on the books, and it's a continuance of his story, which I'll briefly give you a synopsis. He's an ex-Special Forces who joins the Los Angeles Police Department. He works as a homicide detective in the Hollywood division, of all places. All the celebs are there, not in the police station. Well, maybe Winona Ryder's in there after shoplifting. He has a whole myriad of challenges, investigates suspicious deaths, follows the trails of corruption in his pursuit of the truth. Maybe slightly spoiler, but if you've read the books, it's not. He ends up becoming a private detective.
So it's the same guy playing the same character.
All the same cast as before, different reasons of being in the show.
That feels like extending an existing TV series, but dressing up in a new cloak.
The Emperor's New Clothes.
It is. That's exactly what it is. As someone who hasn't watched it, because Bosch has been on my to-watch list for a while.
You will enjoy it.
But I haven't watched it, so as a bipartisan viewer, I'm saying that is literally Bosch, but under a new title.
I haven't read the books, but I know someone who has, and they said in the books that this kind of follows his next stage in his life where he becomes a private detective. Now, all the cast from the previous show are in it. They appear.
Ones who need a new kitchen.
The ones who have gone, can I have some more work, please, Hollywood? They've gone, all right, then come in episode 5.
Is it those ones like on the soaps where they get too big in the soaps, where they think they're superstars, they go off to make a movie that they never managed to make, or it massively flops, and the following year they're back on the soap
when they
again?
get killed off in the soap, and then 10 years later they've decided they had dementia, and they come back on the show.
Because I don't watch EastEnders, by the way. I don't.
Oh,
but
I don't.
it happened to be on the telly before Christmas when I was at my parents' house. Pretty much everyone who was on EastEnders when I was a kid is now back on there. They obviously look more haggard and old, playing exactly the same people just 40 years on.
I don't watch it, if that's the story you're going with. I wasn't at your parents' house at Christmas, so I don't know what you're talking about. If Michael Greco's back, totally take your point, because that's who I remember from the 80s. Absolutely true. There was a woman who lived in a shoe. I don't know why. She swallowed a fly. I guess she'll die. She went to do Wonder Woman and that didn't take off. She was one of the families on the square. The house price on Albert Square must be dirt cheap with the amount of violence that goes on there. So if you're an investor, get right on those.
Is it any good?
It is good. I binged the whole lot across 2 nights.
How many episodes is it?
I'm going to go with 10.
It's not like a 20, 25 episode job.
No, these have all been pretty
Okay.
short, and I think that's what they do now. If they are good, they get a renewal, and if they're not good, the production companies only spent money on 10 episodes.
Okay.
They are about an hour each, by the way. I would say if you like crime, police, procedural dramas, it's for you.
Get on it and bish bash bosh.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Right, mine next on the list is Ozark.
Oh, yeah.
Whose last season came out, about a month ago? Or thereabouts, perhaps not even a month ago. Season 5. Ozark is about a guy who is an accountant and his partner screws him over by laundering money for the cartels, gets himself killed, and so Jason Bateman's character, which is Martin Bird, has a decision to make of whether he goes legit or whether he picks up baton, and he ends up picking up the baton and laundering money for the cartel. All the seasons have just followed him finding himself further and further in the quagmire, so to speak. This is the last season, so it's finished now.
Yes.
Watch that. You've watched this as well.
I binged that.
What would we say about the final season?
They knew they were coming to the end.
It felt like they were dragging a dead weight over the finish, because Ozark's one of those series, I have to say, where it gets better every season. Like by the end of season 4, it was still an improving thing. You know, usually seasons as they go on start to get a little bit tired. This is the first season where it feels like they totally ran out of steam.
Well, I mean, if it's a cancellation, they're running for the finish, aren't they, to wrap up in a finite amount of time. Any loose ends, that's it done. I have heard actually they are going to do a spin-off because, you know, when you get cancelled, from the ashes rise another phoenix that people didn't ask for. I don't see how or where it would go because, well, spoilers. I mean, what did you think of the ending without going into too much giving away?
So I thought this season, it's good. It's enjoyable watching all of it. However, it feels like the story arc that they had in season 4 is basically the one that they're trying to finish off in season 5, and they drag that fucker out for the whole of the season. It feels like they could have done this in half the number of episodes and not had to drop any story arcs whatsoever. I thought it was all right.
They did similar to Stranger Things. They've done it in 2 halves of the season first part 1 and then the season part 2.
I actually thought the end of part 1 was probably
better.
more of a mic drop moment than the end of part 2.
I would agree with that. The second part of the season was just mopping up loose ends. The ending I didn't think was that wonderful. If you were the writer of this show and you had an end point for it and you knew from the moment you started the show where it was going to go, I didn't think that justified the level of drawing out.
No, it leaves it for you to almost fill in the gaps at the end. And I don't want that.
No, I want a definitive end.
I want a definitive end. It doesn't even have to be a definitive end as in like it's black and white. I'm happy with a grey ending, but so long as it's a clever grey ending, and I feel this was a bit of a, well, really.
I just thought for the amount of investment, this all comes down to time, doesn't it? So you're putting the time to watch it. You want a really good ending.
But you see, my attitude of a great ending is always burn the house down at the end. If this is your if the final episode, no one's coming back, just burn it all down. Just make it an absolute catastrophic car crash of a mess, because it'll be brilliantly entertaining. There'll be no qualms about what's happened. Yeah, everyone will be happy. But it feels like what they've done is they've left open the opportunity to potentially renew everyone's contracts in a few years' time when they're running out of ideas. Yeah,
I need a job.
Yeah,
I think the guy who created Babylon 5 did that when he found out there was a cancellation. I think he literally just burnt it to the ground, and then they were like, oh, Where'd you go from there? It was all a dream.
Definitely go watch Ozark, and certainly if you've not watched any of the previous ones, seasons 1 to 4 are brilliant, like really top draw. Season 5 is good and it's well worth watching. As I say, part 1 is really good, but part 2 feels like they were properly spinning the yarn.
Running out of ink.
Yeah, they were trying to earn the money. Right, what have you got next?
I have The Staircase. Now, I'm sure you and I have talked about this in a previous show.
No, we didn't. We had a conversation at my house about this. You were talking about, I'm going, that sounds dead familiar.
Because you've seen the Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
Anyone who has Netflix will have seen the Netflix documentary called, funnily enough, The Staircase, based on Michael Peterson's story, who was a novelist, and in 2001 his wife died, and he claimed that she'd died by falling down the stairs. Now, this was disputed by a lot of people.
Not the wife.
She didn't have much to say on that matter. She was rather quiet and was unavailable for comment. But it was determined by the prosecution that he'd beaten her, and as a result had ended up falling down the stairs. It followed the 2005 court. French documentary company then picked it up, as in typical fashion for American crime, seems to just last for people's whole lives.
Oh, I have to say, if ever I was accused of something in America, I'd just probably end it straight away, because these things go on for years and years and years, and if you're not guilty, that's a bloody long time to be walking around with that on your shoulders.
Netflix, unusually for a documentary, added more episodes after the fact. In 2013 and 2018, follows from the arrest and his decision to make the Alfred Proclamation, which basically says that he's not admitting any wrongdoing, but is guilty of the crime, but is unproven.
It's the weirdest thing.
It is weird. What America's doing now, following on the success of Dope Sick and The Dropout, they've decided to dramatise the documentary. That is on HBO.
Any good?
I know episode 5 was a little bit controversial, and the French company who'd given their blessing to access all of their stuff were a little bit unhappy how they were portrayed in episode 5. It looks alright. Having seen the documentary, the route I would take for people is watch the documentary first, then watch the dramatisation. It's enjoyable. I mean, I quite like the characterisation. Michael Peterson's being played by the English actor.
Not the English actor.
The English actor.
I mean, guys,
Colin Firth.
With this level of research.
Really? You went there. Colin Firth. His characterisation is first class. I wasn't sure when I heard him, because he's doing a generic American accent. If you were to do a side-by-side, be pretty impressed by the way he talked, all of those things that make up the character. Whether or not things happen behind the scenes, you have to allow for dispelling some reality.
Well, you have artistic license when you're dramatising something.
And it's a drama. The clue's in the title. I'm enjoying it. The reason I'm mentioning it is because it's based on the documentary that's been out.
So go watch that first.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, cool. Well, now I'm on my list of stuff. I think we're doing quite well for time, so we may well go through a few of these. I've got top of my list Reacher, which is on Amazon Prime. Now, I'm a big fan of the books, and I certainly enjoyed the first of the Reacher films with Tom Cruise in it. I thought the second one was okay, but not as strong. And people will have heard this, whenever the Reacher films are mentioned, people will get bored or roll their eyes at the fact that Tom Cruise, as good an actor as he is, and as well as he did in the role, couldn't be further from the character in the books. Tom Cruise is probably about the same size as one of Reacher's legs.
If so smaller.
Yeah. Reacher's supposed to be like a man mountain with hands like dustbin lids or something. In this version, we've got Alan Richardson, and I don't want to get it wrong because he's fucking huge.
He's massive, isn't he?
He is huge.
Yeah. Well, he was in Titans, and he played, I'm going to say Hawkman, but he might not be.
He was in Hunger Games.
Oh, right, okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Titans, yeah, quite right.
What did he play in Titans?
Hawk.
And to be fair, he was cast pretty well.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
This is exactly how Reacher is, and he plays him brilliantly. You love him because he's cool. You also love him because he's rude and lacks any social graces and frankly doesn't give a shit, but is still the smart, switched on cookie that you get from the books. This is a brilliant series. I binged this and absolutely loved every second of it, and then went back and watched it again with my dad and enjoyed it just as much second time round.
Yeah, I didn't binge it. I watched it when it came out, but I just thought, as you did, great casting, and it's been renewed after the first couple of episodes because people went, yes please. And obviously Amazon can track, like Netflix do, who's watching it, and I think they've established when you've got umpteen million people watching episode 1, like, yeah, just renew it.
I mean, there's 20 plus books, so there's plenty of material for them to be going at.
And then in fact even the movies didn't cover all the books, did they? So we're going to get several seasons of this quite easily.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, same reasons as you really, and it wasn't a long series either. It was
about 10 episodes, I think. Yeah, 9 episodes.
It's an easy watch, isn't If you binge it, it's great, but also if you want to break it up and just fit it into your evening, it's not heavy either.
It's not a heavy, complicated plot, so you don't have to try and keep up with loads of stuff. It's quite a colour by crayon plot, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean some plots you just have to sit and think, and if you switch off for 5 seconds, you got to rewind half an hour and rewatch the whole bloody thing again. This one, it doesn't require a Mensa IQ.
The story covers the whole 9 episodes, not episodic where one story is contained in one episode and then they move on to another story. It goes across the 9 episodes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it is based on the first of the Reacher books. So
well, that would make sense.
Start at the beginning.
Well, absolutely. If you're going to cover like all of his books, because what's his Childs is the guy?
Lee Childs.
I think he's executive producer on it as well, which means he gets to say who's in and who's out. And I did watch an interview where they'd had a conversation with Tom and went, look, we're going to a TV show. And actually, Tom doesn't do TV shows. He just does films. He wouldn't have done it anyway. And also, he's not the executive producer, so he can't be in it because he's only 4'8".
With heels.
Yes.
Right, what have you got?
I've got a couple other ones, but the one I was going for, I'm a bit torn really, because the one I was going to mention has been cancelled, but I've got Moon Knight on here.
Oh, last episode of that came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's only 6 episodes.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, a very brief synopsis because we could wax lyrical, or I could wax lyrical about the backstory to him and all that malarkey. But if you want to know about Marvel, why don't you tune into the Marvel rewatch?
Yeah, we'll get there in about 4 years.
Yeah, I would order your Walker right now because by the time we get there, we will be retired and we'll have handed over to the young Avengers who will be taking over our podcasts. Because there's 28 movies to go through and they're still coming strong.
Our children who we don't yet have will take over the mantle.
I've ordered one on eBay just to make sure I'm covered, so I'm future-proofed. Moon Knight, yeah, it's on Disney. Fans of the comics will know about this, obviously from the comics with the same name. But for those who may not be geeks, short 6-episode show.
Kevin Feige, when these came out, insisted that you could watch these standalone, separate too, so you don't have to have watched any of the movies in order to enjoy these
and
series.
I think you can't you?
Yeah, I think so.
If you're a bit of a fan of fantasy or stuff like that,
Yeah.
I think you could probably get away with watching that.
If you like The Mummy.
Yeah, or anything Egyptian-based.
Indiana Jones,
all of that
kind of stuff,
like
with an
National
Egyptian
Treasure.
twist. Yeah,
a guy called Stephen Grant, who's a mercenary, Mark Spector, who investigate mysteries of the Egyptian gods from inside the same body. I think that pretty much covers what it is, because anything else would be a spoiler for fans.
Yeah, the guy's got a disassociation disorder, so he's got multiple personalities all inside the same.
It used to be called multiple personality disorder, but people got offended by that and they changed it to DID.
Oh, so he's got DID. One of the personalities in him just happens to be an Egyptian god, which is how he has his powers to do his moonlighting.
Well, he's basically an avatar for one of the non-corporeal entities, but now you're forcing me to get into the nitty-gritty, which is a podcast on its own.
Did we enjoy this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
But I felt I was spoiled because of the comics, so I knew the ending, and from the beginning I was going, oh, when's this going to happen? Sometimes a lot of knowledge about something isn't always the best.
Well, of the personalities, as Marvel and Disney have done throughout, they don't necessarily deliver consistent with the comic books. So I think is it Mark who's the personality based in London? Stephen. So Stephen, the personality Stephen is completely different in this to the comic books.
They've changed the jobs and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it still feels fresh, even for people who read the comics.
But the stand-up moments, if you've read the comics, you will know of these things. It's just they've arrived them in an MCU fashion, and they've acknowledged the comic heritage. They've either adapted it to suit today, like they did with Black Panther, or they may have added it into their MCU bigger picture for the wider scope of MCU. Whether you're a fan or not, it was good.
Oscar Isaac does brilliantly in this.
He does, and there were some fans who were like, I'm not too sure.
His accent is actually a region within London, and people were taking the mick from the trailers, but actually when you watch the series, it makes more sense why he speaks the way he does, and actually it's very cool.
I mean, if that was the only thing to criticise it for, it actually was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah,
so
totally.
worth a watch, and if you've got Disney Plus, I mean, they're putting loads of stuff on there at the moment.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Sticking with Disney Plus, Obi-Wan Kenobi came out last week.
Is that on your list?
At this point, I've only watched 2 episodes.
Same here.
But what do we think the first couple of episodes?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I think some of the stuff delves more into Order 66. This is going to be a backstory show. Has to be.
Yeah, well, it's based 10 years after the last prequel. Obi-Wan has just sliced and diced Anakin Skywalker. He's an armless mannequin, now Darth Vader. And 10 years on, the Jedi are all in hiding because the Empire's the big dog and there ain't many Jedis left because they've all been killed off. And Obi-Wan's approach is a very noble, keep me head down, live in a cave. And if anyone asks for help, tell them to fuck off.
And call myself Ben.
Yeah, change his name. He's gone down the Superman disguise route.
He's put glasses on.
Yeah.
He's put glasses on and a fake moustache.
And that's basically it so far.
Yeah, it is. The first episode covers what followed on from the Revenge of the Sith. I think with it being a 6-episode run, I think they're going to use this to springboard it into the next season. Imagine.
Do you think there's going to be a second season?
I think so. I don't think you can do 6 episodes
I
and
hope not.
The first 2 episodes are just padding to get it where we've got 4 to do. So it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, and I think it's only 10 years before A New Hope. He's going to age pretty quickly in 10 years because he looks quite young.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with Ewan McGregor.
When he was in the films, they put a beard on him to age him, so now he's got the beard naturally.
But he now is looking how he did look 10 years ago.
So he's achieved that now. By the time he gets to Alec Guinness level, that's only 10 more years, and you think, flippin' heck, you must have had a bad paper round.
Do you know what? I like Star Wars, so I just always want to watch stuff. And I didn't mind the prequels, actually. I know they got a bit of a hammering, but I didn't mind them. At the moment, I don't feel like I needed this story in my life. And some of the scenes and the acting is woeful. The little girl who plays Princess Leia, I think one of the scenes, they've got a couple of baddies chasing a child whose legs are about the same size as
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yes. The girl, while she's clearly cute and a very good actress, speed isn't one of her strengths, because watching these grown-ass men try to pretend to chase after this child, but in a way where they're running as slowly as humanly possible
with
to give the kid enough chance to get away. And then, even though you could probably catch a child of this age in about 5 seconds, they then branch off. So one goes off to the left, one goes off to the right. I said, just fucking run after her.
In a straight line.
She's a child.
Yeah.
I think there's one part where they pretend to run into the branch of a tree, and it's like, oh, dude, seriously.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same, yeah. And these are, what, bounty hunters or mercenaries?
Mercenaries. Yeah. The second season, she's been kidnapped. There's no spoilers here because we don't know where it's gone on from this point, but she gets kidnapped. Obi-Wan comes in to try and save her, and you have this ridiculous situation of a child who's in mortal peril and has just been saved by someone who runs away from that person. And then you've got this sort of chasing after the kid, and again, you can see Ewan McGregor having to limp slightly to try and give the kid a chance to get away. I think there are some fundamental flaws with this. They are similar flaws to the ones I experienced with Boba Fett, which I didn't think was as good as it could have been.
Well, that has had some criticism. Boba Fett's a bounty hunter and not a charity. So just saying on that, go and watch it if you don't know what I'm on about, but it'll all make sense. I think this is just Christian Haydenson went, look, I need some money. Can you get me back in as Darth? Because I really, really need the money.
Well, you can get paid for the first 2 episodes, is it?
I think he only gets a credit on the second one.
But did you enjoy Boba Fett?
I enjoyed it. I had some criticisms. His character doesn't track across Star Wars lore. I am not, by any stretch of imagination, by the way, a huge, big geek on Star Wars. That isn't my area. I know enough just because, Gareth, he wasn't a bleeding sponsor of this thing. He should be by now. He's got, honorary rights, but he knows a lot of stuff, too much. Get a life. Oh, you found a female. That was the reason why I know a lot. I vicariously pick up stuff that he was talking about, and he would know the ins and outs of this stuff. I, just like you, appreciate a bit of sci-fi. I was brought up on the films. I enjoy anything to do with Star Wars.
It was entertaining, but I think it's a damning indictment when the best episodes of the season are actually about a completely different character, and the main character, i.e. Boba Fett, gets maybe a word.
Second billing to his own show.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And that is a sad indictment of the show. No idea why you would do that, because it ruins the whole show. This one is going to be a exposition fest. What happened between Revenge of the Sith and now.
This is shit I don't feel the need in my life. I'm happy not knowing. It's like where did the dice come from in the Han Solo films. I didn't need that. And I desperately want to find, and when I say them, I mean these Star Wars series, not on a desert island planet.
Again,
sick of sand. There must be more planets in this galaxy that don't have sand on them.
Well, it seems that every Star Wars planet is either water, snow, or sand.
Yeah.
Get another planet, or the mouth of a massive worm.
I mean, Mandalorian was quite good because he did go to different ones, but even he spent a good few episodes on a sandy, dusty piece of rock. Boba Fett's entirely on Tatooine.
Yeah.
And certainly one of the 2 episodes of Obi-Wan is on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So anyway, right, let's not turn this into it's worth watching. I'm interested to see where this goes. What's next on your list?
My next one then would be Halo. Now, it's on Paramount Plus. For our American viewers, this is just for you.
And for us British viewers, if you like Star Trek, you will be feeling the pain of this bit.
Yeah, anything on Paramount Plus, with no idea when it's coming to the UK. But if you're in America, you're welcome.
And if you're Paramount, fuck off.
Sort yourself out. Another streaming channel that you got to pay £10 a month for. So Halo, for those who are fans of the computer game and inspiring the Cortana application on most Windows-based computers, it follows the story of Master Chief, who is a cybernetically enhanced super soldier, and he defends humanity from the alien covenant of the 26th century. Cortana, interestingly enough, is voiced by Jen Taylor, who is the same actor who did it in the games and on the Windows voice assistant. Cortana is similar to Alexa, Siri or Google Assistant, which I thought was a nice payday for her because her voice is on every PC, whether you want it or not. Cortana, tell me what the weather is, and you went, look out the window. How hot is it? It's cold. I would be the shittest voice assistant if it ever is like, Latham, what's the weather like? Just open your eyes, mate, and it's cold.
Open your window, stick your arm out. Yeah. I actually do a temperature test.
Of course you do.
I do.
Of course you do.
You know, like when you look out the window and you can't tell whether it's cold enough. What I used to do was stick the top half of my naked body out, so like, you know, my torso.
Right.
And then I'd be able to... and what I'd then do is call it the breath test. So if I can see, you know, your breath, if you see your breath, yeah, it's cold, and how many layers I need is determined by the fact that I've got nothing on my top.
Where are you when you do this breath test?
There is no scientific basis for what I do, and probably doesn't really work, particularly if you just got out of the shower and you're really hot, because it's quite nice then when you stick your torso out into the cold. If you're already feeling a bit chilly, then it's just a stupid thing to do.
It is. I often shower with the door open, which was a shock to our postman. But I think you should get a job for Microsoft.
I will do.
And they go, Pollard, what's the weather like?
Hang on a minute, let me just go...
It's cold.
So is Halo any good?
It's all right. I haven't played the games. Again, Gareth, who's going to get a double mention, is your man to speak to because he played that a lot. I think they've followed the game. Well, I was impressed.
Did they do a film?
No, what they did do. So, Weta Digital, they did an experimental live action 10 minutes of what a Halo show would look like years ago. And it was as similar to how it happened with District 9. It was leaked and ended up as a YouTube video. And so I think Peter Jackson did a favour for somebody, and it was never ever picked up by anybody, and that's been knocking around for years. They've done some fan-based ones, like I think it was a small web series.
Right.
This is the first official live action series.
So for the benefit of those of us who can't watch it, is it any good?
If you're not a big fan of the games, watch it. It's a sci-fi show.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. Again, it's another short season. I think it's 9 episodes.
Okay. Next on my list, I have got... I've got loads. I'm going to go Peacemaker next.
And why not? Bit of DC.
DC have waded in. Now, this is a spin-off from the Suicide Squad. Not Suicide Squad, but the Suicide Squad. Basically, James Gunn got his hands on it and made it good. The first one wasn't bad, except the baddie was shit, and it was a bit shit. This second one was brilliant, and it was very Guardians of the Galaxy, tongue-in-cheek. Everything was...
Humour was good, wasn't it?
It was exactly what you'd want from the movie. One of the characters in that was Peacemaker, who we thought was dead, and then they had a Marvel-style post-credit sting, which in the film shows him still to be alive, and so this TV series basically picks up from that.
So not a spoiler then? Spoiler.
No, I mean, that film's been out for a few years now if you haven't watched it yet.
Well, that's only for the bellends who leave before the post-credits, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I went to watch Doctor Strange recently, and there are still people leaving the cinemas.
Can't believe 28 movies, and yet everyone goes, oh yeah, the first thing I need to do is get myself out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Well, there was 2 post-credit scenes,
but
even
still,
so.
You don't know that until you watch it.
And also, if you paid your money, you want every penny's worth.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You're talking to the Yorkshireman here.
Absolutely.
So, Peacemaker, yeah, it's a very Suicide Squad type storyline, which is that the government have got him wrapped around their little finger. He's still got the exploding capsule thing in his neck, so he still has to do their bidding. And it is funny as fuck. It's brilliant.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And it has probably the best introductory credit scene I have ever seen of a TV show, ever.
Anyone who knows James Gunn's work will know he loves the music. The soundtracks are always first class. As soon as you see it, you know it's James Gunn.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I think that's when Disney realised we shouldn't have sacked him.
Well, they
back.
didn't. They welcomed
yeah, welcome back. But no, you can tell straight away it's James Gunn, and obviously on the back of the success of the Suicide Squad, again, you just thought, yeah, straight away, DC are going to go, would you like to handle some more stuff? And they have, haven't they?
They have. He's been commissioned for a second season of this. I hope they don't do more than 2 seasons, and actually I'd have been happy if they'd have just stopped at 1, because it's brilliant, it's funny, it is what it is. I wish wish they'd moved on to another character and done something similar, but with another character, because I don't want it to be a bit of a law of diminishing returns, because this one was so on point. And I think sometimes these film studios, and certainly DC, who are desperately scrabbling to play catch up with Marvel, are keen to seize upon anything and everything they can get their hands on that does well. And there is a risk here that it'll end up not being as funny because the jokes run thin and the characters become a bit, oh, I've seen this before. A bit like Pirates of the Caribbean. The first Pirates of the Caribbean, absolutely amazing. One of the best films. It's just fabulous. But then once you've seen Johnny Depp do that character in the second film and the third film and the fourth film and the fifth film, it's like, oh, Christ, I've seen this.
I agree. The problem with DC, though, is where Marvel have literally taken back all of their things, DC's still fragmented. And I know the CW have just done a massive cull on about 4 DC shows, and yet are still churning out stuff. And obviously Netflix have got Titans, and I've just seen the trailer for Gotham Knights, which is coming to the CW. The rumour is that CW are trying to move away from Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to all DC. Warner Brothers are moving to HBO, like Disney Plus, and I think that's where HBO Max is going to be their streaming channel for everything DC. But at the moment, there's so many fragmented shows on different platforms. I think they're going to try and do what they've done with Marvel eventually, and everything will be on HBO Max.
HBO Max in this country, in the UK, is normally on Sky, or if you've got Now TV, which is the digital subscription version of Sky, then you can get it on there.
Yeah, the rumour is that James Gunn's going to be directing or involved in another spin-off show.
Oh, cool. What have you got on your list?
Pam and Tommy.
Why, what have they got to say about this?
Well, they're rather unhappy because they had a video stolen, you may have heard. Again, another dramatisation based on the true story surrounding Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee's honeymoon sex tape that was stolen and leaked to the public. Anyone of a certain age will recall this. It was one of those where were you when it happened type moments, and I myself managed to obtain a copy.
I've never seen this.
Well, I was bootlegging it. I think
Why does that not surprise me?
I think I was 19 at the time. A wise man can hear prophets in the wind, based on the Ferengi proverb. I was selling these at the time to people who hadn't seen it.
Allegedly, or as the time frame, maybe.
Oh no, statute of limitations gone.
Yeah.
I was 19, so we're talking 1995, quite a while ago. But that was when we had dial-up. People were more patient because you waited an hour to have a photograph appear on your screen. It was when you had that grainy video of the sex tape.
And apparently he's hung like a snake.
Yeah, he is.
Wow.
It's not even apparent. It is, literally. I thought there was a mark on the film, but it's not. It's his penis.
Wow. Is this any good? I'm assuming this isn't a series that has been given the rubber stamp by Pamela and Tommy.
I don't know, but
I'm sure I've read somewhere that she's deeply unhappy.
Oh, well, I mean, maybe. I mean, that could go back to my comments about the staircase where they've played around with some of it.
Well, I can't imagine she was happy it came out the first time round. She's not going to be happy they've dramatised it and have dug it out. Bearing in mind, she's probably got older kids, and she's probably got teenage kids now who
probably don't
want to hear a dramatisation of a sex tape with her mum and another fella who was hung like a horse.
Probably not. I do wonder sometimes how they, and I think it's dramatic license, when they have the stuff that behind the scenes. So, for example, a conversation between you or I is reenacted, but there was no evidence of it being recorded or anything.
Do you feel that shows like that lose a bit of credibility when it's clearly obvious that they're just making shit up in and amongst some loose facts?
Yeah, I do think there's definitely, I mean, I know sometimes they've got people who were witnesses to a conversation, but bear in mind this came out recently on Disney. This goes back to when it happened. I do think they do a good job of the chronology of when it happened and gives you a reason to how the robbery happened and the person behind it, and then how interesting it is versus how we live today in terms of now with the speed of the internet and technology. You know, these things now people profit on. Technically, all you need is an OnlyFans account. The sad part of the story is the people making the money wasn't them.
Yeah.
On the back of a private moment that they recorded for prosperity. I'm not sure why you would.
Don't know if I was hung like that.
Maybe
you'd take a picture of it every chance you got.
Probably. It's like, where's that draft excluder? But somebody clearly benefited from it, and I think that was where the court action became a thing because they were like charging for it downloaded it. But what it also did inspired the birth of the internet. At that point, the internet was literally a brand new thing. People were
all the dirty pers were all jumping on there then trying to find some more dirty content.
It took them 10 years to download. If you like a, I suppose, autobiographical drama,
cool,
I would tune into that.
Right, next on my list I've got Goliath. Got Billy Bob Thornton. It's on Amazon Prime. Seasons 1 to 3 have been out for ages. I've mentioned it on the previous one. It's brilliant. It's well worth it. It sort of follows Billy McBride, who was once a top top-notch, highly successful, famous lawyer, but he's got a booze habit and has a bit of an issue with a former case. He decides to take a step back and base his legal career inside a pub and at the bottom of a glass, and sort of follows him having to do some massive cases whilst fighting the fact that he's an alcoholic who barely functions and doesn't generally give a shit. But just also so happens to be a really good lawyer at the same time.
Don't we know someone like that?
Yeah. That was never good. That's the only problem. That was my fall off. Season 4 is the last season of this.
Yeah.
Each episode seems to focus on a massive conglomerate issue in America. So season 1 was a weapons company. Season 2 was corruption in the government, money laundering with drugs and property, because he was a big multi-billionaire property guy who was doing deals to get land, and it's all those under the table deals you hear about. Season 3 was water, mass farming, billion-dollar farming companies stealing everyone's water. And season 4 goes into the pharmaceutical, wades into the pharmaceutical debate about the mass pandemic of addictions to painkillers that happened in America. The opioid, the oxy sort of stuff. Really good, brilliant. I think that the thing I like about this is that each episode shows sort of a development of him and the characters, and so all the subsidiary characters develop and take a different place in the seasons as they develop. So in this one, it's very much got what was, I suppose, his protege and his sort of by proxy business partner, who is Celeste Papazian, who is now sort of fighting out to almost become a top-notch lawyer, making big bucks like Billy McBride, and almost Billy taking a bit more of a backseat as the lawyer. Brilliant, well worth watching.
There's nice pacing to it because you do see the evolution of her character from season 1 to the end of the season.
Although she's still funny. She will still quite happily tell her opponent in court in front of a judge to fuck off. Which I don't think I'd have ever got away with, but I love the fact that she's got the kahunas to do it.
She's a good actress and plays a good part in this. It was another binge-worthy show.
It is, and what I love about it is that they've gone, that's the end of that one.
Because I think that would have gone downhill.
I think so.
Yeah. Once you've tackled all of these big farmers, bizarrely, out of a pub with zero backing and a company to support the outlay of the cost of doing all these investigations, it loses a little bit.
Once you've beaten all these big dogs, that you're running A out of big dogs, and B, you're not really the underdog when you've beaten that many big dogs. You are a big dog in yourself. Kind of loses the foundations of the show. Go check it out. It's well worth doing. Amazon Prime.
The last on my list, because obviously we're only going to do 3.
I know, but we're doing really well for time. We're getting through these, and I want us to discuss some of these because I think you've seen.
Okay, this is on Hulu, called The End Game, based around an international arms dealer and criminal mastermind, Alina Fedorova, who orchestrates the takeover of 7 New York bank heists simultaneously and has an FBI agent who's trying to track her down and find out what's going on from the FBI. Then turns out a whole web of deceit, that there's clues linking her to her past and her marriage, trying to work out what's going to happen next with these bank heists. It's, again, I think about 9 episodes. Each episode is a self-contained one, but is part of a bigger season. Ultimately, comes to the end, has the ability for a sequel. However, it's been cancelled by NBC. Anyone who's seen The Blacklist would immediately think, it's a bit like trying to have a female lead version of that. However, as much as I'm not a big fan of female-led replication shows, this actually is a standout on its own because it's not mimicking The Blacklist. It's got similarities simply because it is alphabet agencies trying to take down a villain and the cryptic mysteries surrounding that. But sadly, it didn't make it out the gate for season 2.
Oh.
Watch it if you want, or don't.
Well, with that advice, I'm going to mention what can only be described as the OCD person's nightmare of TV show, which is The Walking Dead.
Oh my word. Where are you up to on that?
So let me explain my Walking Dead relationship. So I watched, I think, up to about season 6, maybe 7, and enjoyed it. No, sorry. I watched the first few seasons and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. And then it started getting a bit boring because American shows have these really irritating mid-season fucking breaks. I mean, why do you need a break when there's like 2 years between releasing seasons? I mean, just do the season and then have your 2-year break. Why do I have to have one in the middle?
The writer's strike was the reason. They have a
No,
hiatus.
they do it in all of them.
Yeah, no, but they have a hiatus because the writers don't.
Oh.
That's what happened in the writers.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's annoying.
The writers, when they went on strike and when you ended up with an episode of about 3 because they decided not to turn up to work to get better pay, the whole hiatus is part of their deal.
Right.
They have to have a break between creative writing.
Ugh. Well, anyway, it's annoying. During a mid-season break, I just couldn't be asked. When it started up again, I was watching something else and just never really picked it up again. This is the last season, although it's a season that's split into 2 kind of seasons, which means it's not really the last season, it's sort of the second to last season, and the next season will be the season bit that comes out in the future. But then it's a full stop at the end of The Walking Dead. I felt because I'd done already 6 or 7 seasons, I felt like I needed to bookend it by watching the last season, but also needed to fill that enormous void in the middle to understand what the hell was going on. So I made myself watch, I think between sort of October and November, all of the episodes and all of the seasons up to this most recent season. And it was hard work.
Yeah.
This most recent season is okay. Have you been watching it? Yeah. It's actually, it picks up a little bit in this season. It's relatively okay, but again has sort of gone into that.
It's the bit where they pick 3 characters and go, right, we're going to do your story in the woods, and then the second episode picks up in a bomb shelter with 3 other members of the crew, and they go, right, okay, we're going to jump over to the other ones, and then by the end of it you're assuming they're all going to meet up again and have a big hoedown.
Yeah.
I was massively let down by the ending.
Right, because I haven't got that far. I think I'm only about episode 4 or 5 into this final season.
Having fought my way through the entirety of the franchise, I have seen Walking Dead World Beyond, I've seen the webisodes, I've seen Fear the Walking Dead, I've seen the spin-off of Fear the Walking Dead, I've seen something else to do with The Walking Dead. Literally, this was like,
you live in The Walking Dead.
You need to go into town on a Sunday, take a machete with you, having put the time in, the commitment.
Well, this is the thing, you see. I don't think I really give a shit how this ends, but I feel that I've put in enough hours where I deserve to know how it ends.
And having done that and done all the spin-offs and followed it relentlessly as someone who doesn't read the comics of this particular franchise, I was really enjoying the fact I didn't know anything from the comics. So when I was watching it, it was all brand new. I couldn't care less now. Well, I watched it and I wasn't...
This is an example of flogging a horse.
Oh my word. I mean, talk about them falling apart. I mean, I felt so much sorry for the zombies at the end of it because they were like, come on, I'm dying here. I'm literally should be just a pile of dust by now. They should have left it. When Andrew Lincoln went, I've had enough of this. I'm getting off this meat train. Should have said, well, let's just do a movie, wrap it all up and call time on it. No. Big hooners have gone.
Milk
this. And they have. This whole season just seems, if you were to look at the season separately, in fact, what would be interesting is if you watched the last season independently.
Without any background.
Yeah, just watch seasons, whatever it is, 16.
4,422.
Yeah. If you watch this on its own, you would believe it was a totally different tone to the rest of the seasons. And I don't know whether it's because COVID happened and we had our own zombies or whether or not.
Season 11.
Right, maybe it felt like season 16 to me. That's how long
it does. But this is the problem. Oh, anyway. If you can be asked, watch it. And if you can't be asked, there's plenty of other things to do in life.
To be fair, if you want to save some time and just have the same excitement, just tune into the Marvel Rewatch show. It will last almost as long as these seasons back to back, but with more interest.
All right, have you got any more on your list? Are we just going to revert to the remainder of mine?
It's all you now.
So this one ties in with the Yabosh because technically it's the same universe because it might have been written by the same person, The Lincoln Lawyer.
Okay.
Now there was the film with Matthew McConaughey, which was done yonks ago. All right. I really enjoyed the film.
Yes.
This is a TV series and is played by
IMDb. Your phone must be red hot today.
If you'd like to be a sponsor of the show. 2011 was the film. This has come out. Manuel Garcia Ruffalo, who plays Mickey Haller, who is a lawyer who does most of his work in the back of a Lincoln, hence the Lincoln Lawyer theme.
I'm glad you explained it.
This series, it has a real Reacher/Suits feel to it in so much as it's not a storyline that requires a huge amount of brain power. But I found this a really easy, fun, enjoyable watch.
Yeah, I did, and I think when we were having a talk about this the other night, I was saying to you that I actually quite liked the fact they've gone back to the roots of the book. When I was watching it, I thought, oh, here we go, it's Hollywood whitewashing again. And they haven't, the film, whitewashed the character because the actual character in the book, his parents are from
Mexico,
yeah. Somehow Matthew McConaughey got the job. I don't know how he done that. The world famous this actor. I don't know how he got that gig. I was thinking, oh, well, hang on a minute. He doesn't sound American to me. You get that Mexican twang. Then you realise, actually, the books, his heritage is in Mexico.
I couldn't remember where I'd seen him before, but he's actually in Goliath in season 2. Right. He's the cartel guy.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, so well worth watching. Season 1's done. I think there is a season 2 in the pipeline. Right. It's well worth watching. It's on Netflix. There's about 8 episodes, an hour a piece. Easy watching. Yeah, well worth doing.
I'm working my way through it, so you're probably masses ahead of me. I think I'm on episode 4.
Right, next on my list, I've got Better Call Saul.
Oh my word.
Better Call Saul, for anyone who doesn't know, Breaking Bad, huge phenomenon. One of the characters in there is Saul Goodman, the lawyer. They then created, when Breaking Bad finished, a spin-off show called Better Call Saul, which is all about this character and actually shows how Jimmy McGill becomes Saul Goodman and then leads into the Breaking Bad storyline. So this is almost a prequel as such. Like many people, my eyes rolled heartedly when I heard this was a thing. I now consider this show to be better than Breaking Bad, in my humble opinion. This is the last season of this show,
which has actually outlasted the other show because there's more seasons in this show than there was in Breaking Bad.
Yeah. This, like Breaking Bad, it's a show where it takes its time with everything. It takes its time with the plot. It takes its time with scenes, so it'll show a tap dripping, but it won't cut it. It's not rushing the drips. You literally sit and wait for that drip to happen. So there are times when you have to remind yourself just to be patient with it. It's a brilliant show. What do you think about the most recent final season? I mean, we are at this point, I suppose, we're at the mid-season. We're at that annoying mid-season break.
I love it. I think this one, they've obviously, again, taken the time to unravel the end part. I have an idea of where it's going to end. If they do what I think they're going to do, that'll be really cool. The difficulty with a prequel show when it's 10 years after the original show,
you kind of know what happens because you know who's in there.
Yeah, when people have aged up massively and you're thinking, really? You look 20 years older than you were when you were younger? That's not working for me. You sometimes, I think you just allow for creative license and go, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I wasn't sure, to be fair, like you, wasn't certain how it was going to go, but as the seasons have gone on, I do like the little nods, but at the same time it's its own thing. So yeah.
Oh, it's very much its own thing. Go check that out. That's on Netflix at the minute. There's plenty to watch there. Next on my list, I've got Peaky fucking Blinders.
Right, okay.
I said that in a Cockney accent. It's supposed to be a Brummy one, isn't it?
Like Trevor Slattery.
Yeah. Peaky Blinders, again, another show. Final season's come out. We've had the big finale ending. Peaky Blinders as a show as a whole, fan?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I got into it a lot later, which was good in a way because I was able to binge all of the series up to that point. And also, it's a British way of doing shows. It's only 6 episodes or something.
Weren't you in Peaky Blinders?
I was on the set of Peaky Blinders and I ended up being in the Manchester Evening News front page for being in Peaky Blinders, but Cillian Murphy's a bellend.
Got you sacked, didn't it?
So apparently I was looking at him, and so one of the ADs, the assistant directors, went, can you not look at Cillian Murphy? And I went, I'm not, I'm looking in front of me because I might fall over. The scene was me. I was supposed to be a close protection agent to the king in the palace that was Manchester Town Hall. I think it was Bury Town Hall. Anyway, and so I pass him in the corridor.
So you're walking towards each other?
Correct. It's physically impossible not to look ahead of you, and it wouldn't even make sense for you to look to your left or right whilst walking forward.
The world's worst close protection person because you're looking at the floor with your eyes shut.
Yeah, because you don't want to look at the main principal actor. He said to me, can you not look at Cillian Murphy? And I was like, but I'm not though. I'm literally looking ahead of him. He's in my eye line because he's in front of me. I can't look elsewhere. So they went, yeah, the director said we won't need this scene. So I spent the rest of the time in my trailer and then never got used. After being told to shave my beard because they needed people with moustaches, then told that they didn't need people with moustaches because they had people with moustaches, but in fact they were putting prosthetic moustaches on. And I just said to the makeup people, can't you just not do that and keep my moustache? And I went, no. So I lost my entire facial furniture for nothing. But I did get loads of overtime, and so I essentially did work on it, but not physically on it, thanks to Cillian Murphy.
And despite those prejudices against the show,
love it.
What did you think about the final season?
Again, this is a prime example of a show knowing the end is near and just wrapping up for the sake of wrapping up. Some of the storylines didn't make sense. I wasn't even sure on the second season where it was going. It was going into the sort of the fascism route.
Yeah, well, the problem is it starts, and it is based on a true story insofar as the Peaky Blinders were a gang who did exist. And it sort of follows Tommy starting out as someone come back from the First World War with lots of issues like many people did from the horrors that was the war, and then forming the gang, making it a force to be reckoned with, and then working his way up the ladder in society as he gets more power and more money. He then starts branching out, and so the season sort of follows that. And I guess the problem is almost that come the final season, he's got that much power and that much money, and he does that many things. So in this season, he's an MP and he's got property. He still runs the gangs, but he's got more fingers in more pies. It stops being what it started out as. And I know we all want story arcs, but it almost feels like I didn't need that story arc.
They got too big for its boots. I mean, the season that I was in, inverted commas, was when he had political power over the king. So at the point when you're a low-level villain that's carrying a blade in the peak of your hat, when you now have the ability to bribe and sort of blackmail the crown.
Well, I'd say it's like at some point, surely this guy would either go to prison or get killed by virtue of what he does and his history and the fact that he survived to this season. I mean, I'm not discussing the actual final season, but the fact that you've got to this season kind of feels like, you become invincible. And it's like,
he ends up with the power outside of his rank. I mean, there's a World War I soldier who's come back with PTSD, shell shock and such like, and has ended up being above the crown and Parliament. How on earth has that happened? I mean, I know we have criminals as MPs, but that's not the same thing as having a Peaky Blinder as an MP, is it?
No, quite.
I was enjoyable. Didn't think we needed another season. If they'd have timed it because we had the lockdown and just went, that's the last season, and ended it, I would have been happy with that.
Because, of course, there was the additional complication of Helen McCrory, who was Polly Gray, who was a big character in this series who sadly died.
Yeah. Well, I know people who filmed the episode, and when they heard the news of that, they just literally shut down filming. As a sign of respect, they just completely shut down.
My understanding, of course, is I don't think they knew the level of her illness, and therefore this wasn't something planned. They didn't have a chance to write her out. It was quite literally, oh my God, she's died, and we've now got to try and tie up this loose end without the ability to use her to tie up the loose end. Yeah, it felt like they were cobbling stuff together. Anyway,
I would say watch it and stick with it and see what you think for yourselves.
Yeah, it's on BBC iPlayer for us in the UK, and anyone who's not in the UK, sorry, I've got no idea.
It's on BBC World.
You've got Paramount Plus to keep you busy if you can't find
stop whinging.
way of doing it. Yeah, just stop moaning. Next on my list, Derry Girls.
Not seen it.
Have you not watched it? Have you not watched any Derry Girls?
I think I'm put off for the fact it's Irish.
Oh, don't. It's absolutely hilarious.
Not that I don't dislike Irish people. I just don't understand them.
Oh, it's set in the 80s. If you think Stranger Things, nostalgia.
Okay, yeah.
That you get 80s going into the 90s is Derry, and it's based around the problems that they were having in Ireland at the time. It's actually based, I think, on diaries of the actual writer of the series. So she was from Northern Ireland, she was from Derry, and grew up during this time, and this is sort of her recollections or her diary of doing it. Absolutely hilarious. So it basically follows the exploits of a 16-year-old girl as she goes through school with her family and her friends during the early 90s. There's lots of music from the 90s, so that gets you the whole nostalgia juices flowing. It is just funny as fuck. The last season has just finished. I think they're actually doing a feature-length film version as well. Every episode of this show is just utter gold dust. Absolutely brilliant. I can't recommend this. If you want a proper belly laugh, watch this show.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Channel 4.
Okay.
For those in the UK, it's free to watch, which is fab. And they're all up there at the minute, with the exception of the feature-length one. I don't know when that's coming out, but...
It's on 4OD?
Yeah.
Because if otherwise you get the Domino's Pizza advert.
You do get the adverts in between. It's worth it because these shows are brilliant. I introduced my missus to it. She binged it, was devastated that we'd got through, and she was like, is there no more? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. This is a perfect example of a show which was like, that's me end point, no more after this, even though they could have gone on for another few seasons and they'd still have had massive audiences. They're like, no, that's the end of the story.
Well, I will trial that.
Trial it and let us know.
Okay. That's
the list of the good ones. I mean, I have probably more off my list, but I've got a list of ones on me shit list. Now, have you got a shit list?
Well, I've got one.
Oh, right, okay.
I tried to avoid shit TV. My OCD kicks in.
Well, it's a bit like Walking Dead could very easily fall onto the shit list.
It would have gone across there slowly over the course of what I thought was 16 seasons, but turned out to be 11. I tend to try and avoid what I think is shit, and sometimes my shit radar is pretty good, and sometimes it's a bit off.
Usually know sort of the first episode or two.
But when I've committed to something, my OCD will not allow me to let go of that bad thing. So I went through season 1 of a show called Raised by Wolves, which is on HBO.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be ravaged by wolves so it'd all end.
Yeah, I was literally going to bite down on the cyanide molar. There was a few times where I licked it just to see if it just got a little bit of a buzz. Pretty much every episode, I was one step closer to biting down on that molar. Then, for some reason, I've no idea whether it was a pandemic and just the nonsense of being locked up for 2 years, I watched season 2.
What possessed you? I mean, I didn't even finish season 1 because I got so...
Because of OCD, I fought my way through season 1. I just literally had to do it every episode. Like, why did you just do that? I wouldn't mind. The intro's 5 minutes.
I mean, this is a massive show. They spent some serious wonga on this, and there's some massive names in here.
Well, there's people in it. I don't know who they are. It's Ridley Scott.
Sorry, it's a massive show as far as Ridley Scott and the budget. I mean, they didn't cut any corners, but... It's
literally aliens. Or it's alien-centric.
Androids are tasked with raising human children on a mystery planet. That's the long and short of the show. And beyond that, it's weird.
You're being gentle with the description. I literally wanted to disinfect my eyeballs. In fact, I wanted to do what she does and take my eyeballs out, go postal and wipe out a few androids. And it reminds me why I hate androids. It wants me to go and punch Hal in the face.
I've got a couple, and I probably feel slightly bad putting them on the shit list because, like you, I don't generally watch shit if I get so far in. But these are ones which I've found really disappointing. So I've got Picard on there, season 2 of Picard. Massively disappointing as far as I'm concerned. It was Star Trek V, The Voyage Home, but in a new TV series form. It felt lazy. It felt very tropey. Most of the storyline was just completely pointless. It didn't have, apart from episodes 1 and 2, and arguably, possibly the final episode, which had Star Trek stuff in there. I mean, episode 1 had the uniforms, the spaceships, the whole 9 yards. Episode 2 was a mirror universe type episode, which was fabulous. And after that, it was just dog shit.
For the time it's taken Patrick Stewart to get insurance to be on set, they could have had the writers doing a better job. The only episode, well, even the last episode spoilt the Borg for me. I'll never see the Borg the same again, thanks to somebody who needs to be at Specsavers. The good thing with that is she can see people come up behind her.
No.
Pushed it too far. It was disappointing.
Yeah. All right, cool. The other thing on my list, we mentioned Boba Fett already, which I thought was a bit disappointing. One I've started recently is Russian Dolls.
Okay.
Now, season 1 I actually quite enjoyed. This show is about a girl who dies and then is almost stuck in a Groundhog Day scenario where she keeps on dying and she has to figure out why it is. And again, it's one of those shows where actually the more you know and find out, the less good it is. It's quite great at the beginning and then sort of runs a bit of steam. Season 1 was very good. Season 2 tries to follow a different thing without repeating what season 1 did. I just can't get into it at all. This one, she goes back in time.
But to die?
No, there's no death.
Oh.
She goes back in time, and it's a bit like Quantum Leap where she's in the body, so when she looks in the mirror she sees someone else other than herself, but is now being herself but in this other person situation. And no one seems to go, you're acting a bit weird, even though she's completely acting differently to how the other person would be. It just feels like it's something that's been done, which is a shame because season 1's really good. I feel season 2, I don't think I'm almost at the point where I've stuttered enough times watching the most recent episode where I might not be arsed watching the rest of the season, which is a damning indictment because my OCD, like yours, normally drives me through.
I've never watched it. I got the impression from the trailers it was going to be a bit like when the writers have TV Gold, Prison Bacon show in prison that I've just made up. So
we're just copyrighting that. For the record, this is date stamped on.
Yeah, Prison Bake, that's ours. We own that now.
They have to make it with plastic forks.
Yeah, and they have to put actual files in the cake so they can break out. That's a fantastic show.
I'm just thinking, right, so this week's theme is baking a cake that can be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
You've got 2 hours, off you go.
I've made my cake look like a ladder.
I've made mine look like a shank.
And a door.
It's got hidden blades inside of the strawberries.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God.
That is
totally a show.
Fantastic. Anyway, Prison Break, that's a great idea.
Amazing. Season 1.
Fantastic. Leave it now. Season 2, there comes a point when you can only break out of so many prisons and people go, is he in your prison? Yeah, he broke out of ours.
Well, what you do is you turn him into a super intelligent superhuman and ask him to work for you, because that's exactly where it was going from season 1.
When you have TV gold.
Stop.
Yeah, that's the problem. Russian Doll, I got the impression from the trailer, that's a really good idea. Where do you go from there? And the answer is apparently back in time.
Well, following on, the next one I've got on there is Killing Eve. Now, I really enjoyed season 1 and season 2 of Killing Eve are brilliant. Season 3 is okay. Season 4, I've watched, I think, 3 episodes, and I've just about decided that I don't really need to know where it's going.
Oh, really? Is this the last season?
Yeah, it is.
Because it's been cancelled, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's one of those things where I just, like Derry Girls, where they just went, we'll stop here.
You think they should have done the same?
I do feel like they should have just stopped, because Jodie Comer throughout seasons 1 to 3 is just brilliant, but it kind of feels now like they're just dancing around the same storylines over and over again, and after a while you just go, enough already.
The other problem with these shows is because they become popular, the actors in them end up being the hot property for that moment. Jodie Comer's in everything at the moment, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she's very talented with accent-wise. I've seen her on YouTube and she does loads of those. I suppose there would have been a point where they would have had to come to a finite situation with the TV show simply about availability. Maybe there's that and they rush things out because of people's availability.
Well, they feel like they have to bookend it.
Yeah, and that's another problem with these shows is you either just have a vision of where it starts and where it ends, like with Better Call Saul, or painting by numbers, and you don't know where it's going to go until someone says, oh, by the way, I've got to do 15 Hollywood films, and they go, oh right, well we only got you for a week then. You go, yeah, let's get those shows done. And the viewer ends up paying the price because it's on BBC iPlayer, was it? Or
yeah, it's on BBC iPlayer.
So people are currently paying a TV license, and if you've invested your time in it again, people aren't going to be happy, are they?
No.
I never started watching it. People keep saying watch it, but the thing with me is, do I start watching it, get excited, and then come to the conclusion, which is everybody dies? No. Like with Lost, for example. Now, I binged Lost. I didn't watch any. I waited.
You see, I've never watched Lost.
I did the clever thing, which I'm going to tell myself. I did the clever thing.
Well done, you.
Thank you. I watched all of them. Got cancelled. I was watching about 6 or 7 episodes a night, so I caught up. Wasn't having any 12-month break, no hiatus between the mid-season, so I was watching them back to back. So I didn't have any unanswered questions, because literally I got to the end of the season, I watched season 2, and I remembered what happened in season 1. That's the other problem. When I got to the end of season 6, I was like, what? I was like, no, that's not good. I've invested my time in this. And then I found out they only wanted to do 3 seasons. It was the TV production company going, no, everyone likes this.
Well, it's the Game of Thrones
situation. Oh my God, yeah. No, absolutely that. Greed.
Enough.
Just stop when you know it's good.
Stop, people.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's given enough food for thought. What is coming out soon? I've scribbled 2 down, but that's largely because those are the only 2 I could think of off the top of my head that I know are coming out.
There's loads coming out, but I've picked 3 that I think people will like.
Yeah.
The first one that we've seen the trailer for, it's a Marvel show. It's going to be on Disney. It's She-Hulk.
Cool.
Now, again, a little bit of backstory. Jennifer Walters, who first appeared in the Savage Hulk in 1980 comics, is a lawyer. There's a lot of top-heavy lawyer dramas on our list.
We're very popular normally.
She receives an injury and gets a blood transfusion from her cousin, who is the Hulk, acquires a mild version of the Hulk condition. Now, the difference here is, unlike Bruce Banner, she retains her personality. She retains the majority of her intelligence and emotional control. Although she's a bit horny in the comics, she does have her outbursts and does go green, but that becomes one of her things in the comics. People recognise her for that, and actually becomes the lead of the department in her lawyer firm to look after metahumans. Similar to Deadpool, she breaks the fourth wall. She's another character who's aware of her own presence, but usually as kind of part of a comedic thing, really, just a little nod to the audience. Fans will know that she's been a member of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Heroes for Hire, the Defenders, Fantastic Force and S.H.I.E.L.D. She uses her both lawyer skills to represent superheroes. And when I was watching the trailer for this, now Marvel got a lot of criticism for it being the uncanny valley and the CGI not being great. The reason for that is Hulk, they've already got a template.
Well, they dropped the release date for this and then quickly deleted it, didn't they?
What they did do, though, they responded to the fans and they re-released the trailer with better CGI. But the reason why the CGI is rubbish is because they already have a template for the Hulk. They don't have a template. They're building her character and her CGI avatar, as it were, from the ground up. Bearing in mind they've released the date by error, they've actually re-released the trailer with better CGI. When I was watching it, I was thinking of you, because your experience, your background as a lawyer, and also being from Yorkshire
and being horny,
all of them things, I thought you could be called E-Hulk. And you don't suffer fools gladly and get angry. Let's get Hulk on the phone.
I'm available, Marvel.
Yeah,
just give me a shout.
Nice spin-off there. You could be in there. So I'm looking forward to that show.
Yeah.
Then Netflix are bringing, to kind of balance it, DC character. Fans of DC, or in fact, if you've watched Lucifer, saved from cancellation by Netflix. Well, they follow up with this show based on the 89-96 comic book written by Neil Gaiman, who was involved in Lucifer. He's written the graphic novels and was published by DC Comics. Sandman, for those who don't know, is one of the 7 siblings known as the Endless. They are the anthropomorphic embodiments of the powerful natural forces who predate gods.
Say that again.
No. Anthropomorphic. There we go. Boom. Unhindered.
No, I meant that whole sentence.
Oh.
It's all right just saying one word out of that sentence, dude.
The anthropomorphic embodiments of powerful natural forces. You're welcome. Each one rule over a different realm of existence. Although the powerful are not totally invulnerable, free from the rules of the universe. This is an important message when we first meet Morpheus. It's the TV version and adaptation of the comics. That's coming to Netflix very soon.
Okay.
Within the next month or so. Watch out for that. And then the other one, which is Amazon, because, we like to mix it up a bit. A show called The Terminal List.
Sounds jolly.
Well, it's not visits to the hospital, I can assure you. It's based on a character called James Reese, who returns home after his entire platoon of Navy SEALs is ambushed, only to discover dark forces working against him. We may have seen this before. Endangering the ones he loves. Fans of the secret alphabet agencies that are usually involved in this type of show, such as Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan or Jason Bourne's Treadstone, will enjoy this Chris Pratt-led drama.
Okay.
Just listed 3 there that I think people might like, and they're all on different channels, so we haven't got favouritism.
Well, I've got 3 on my list. They're all superhero ones. Why break out of a trope? Miss Marvel is coming out. It's this month, isn't it?
I think it's next week.
Yeah, it's next week. So looking forward to that. I mean, it's another Marvel installment. It will give me my Marvel fix for the time being. The Boys.
Season 3.
Season 3 comes out tomorrow, apparently.
Nice.
The time of recording this show. Very much looking forward to that. Seasons 1 and 2 are fantastic. It's basically about superheroes, but they're all badly warped, damaged individuals who just so happen to have a lot of power.
Well, it's more realistic about what you would be like with superpowers.
Yeah, so if you're a superhero narcissist, then,
you're not going to help
what
people.
would you get away with?
Yeah.
And if you were almost like a godlike powered being, would you be the kind, warm, fuzzy Superman that everyone believes, or would you be an absolute terror and do whatever the fuck you wanted all of the time? So,
yes.
and it follows, and it's very damning. There's lots of...
It's gory.
It's very gory.
Yeah, it's not for children.
No, definitely. Yeah. If you show your kids this...
Yeah, bad parents.
It's got Jack Quaid in. So most of season 1, I was looking at him going, he feels familiar. It's his smile. His smile absolutely matches his dad's.
Yeah.
They've got the same proper Quaid smile about it. That's really interesting. Well worth watching that, season 3. We've got The Umbrella Academy, which is on Netflix. Season 3 is coming out 22nd of June. A bit like The Boys, it's a superhero-based show. There's 7 or thereabouts superpowered babies who were brought together and raised under the Umbrella Academy as brothers and sisters, even though they're not biologically brothers and sisters. So it's got a bit of an X-Men type vibe going on, but it's dark. They're all damaged individuals in one way or another. And yeah, I'm looking forward to season 3 because I enjoyed seasons 1 and 2. They're very different in terms of their storylines and the problems. So season 1's all about an apocalyptic end and how do they prevent it from happening, even though they don't know what causes it or who causes it. And then season 2, they go back in time and then they're dealing with almost a Loki style time body.
One of them caused something and they're trying to find out what was the causation, and you have to go back in time to prevent the end of the world, which is like 7 days.
Unlike The Lincoln Lawyer, which was an easy watch, it requires a bit more concentration, but it's very enjoyable.
I found this a tough one. This for me was like walking through visual syrup.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
So are you going to watch season 3?
Yeah. OCD.
Is that your OCD?
Yeah. I think season 3 will be the last.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to be gotten from this.
No, they've done what they can. I don't think it's badly written or anything like that.
And in fairness, Netflix are quite callous when it comes to shows.
Yeah.
They will cut stuff, not even because they feel it needs to be cut. They'll just go, right,
done.
That's great, done, move
Absolutely.
on to the next project.
It's even harsher when you consider how they reconcile their viewing. So anyone who only watches 20 minutes of a show, they class that as a view.
Right.
They can cull shows even based upon a 20-minute watch of one episode, and they still go, that's part of our figures, and we're still going to cull it. They are quite harsh. I'm not saying it's a bad show. I just think it, for me, and I don't know whether it's because I was watching a lot of things, so I was butterflying. I watched about 20 or 30 different shows. Some come out weekly and then I'm binging others. This was one where, when you're following a narrative and you watch that many shows that are similar, you're trying to work out what show had what time dilation and what back in time type story. And when we're watching Star Trek and things like that, you're thinking, wasn't this done in Picard? Maybe it was to do with that, but I thought it was a tougher watch than most.
Okay.
That doesn't mean the show's bad.
Let us know what you think. Get in touch. In fact, we'd like you to get in touch and let us know what you think about any of the shows we watched today. Let us know once you've watched them what your thoughts were. If there's any we've missed off the list, probably plenty more that we've watched which we haven't included on this, but it'd be embarrassing to just let everybody know just how much time we spend watching this.
Well, I'm sure you said one time you classed that as work.
Yeah, I do.
As a podcaster.
It goes on the tax return as work.
so your tax return includes your Netflix subscription.
Well, of course.
I missed a trick there. So yeah, it's classed as work. What can you do?
That's what I tell the other half as well. I'm sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching episode 10. Cool. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll be back
2023.
Yeah. The next episode we'll be doing Guardians of the Galaxy with Ish on the Marvel rewatch. Fantastic.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Excelsior!
You haven't got one for that, have you?
I think I have, but I thought it was Excelsior, but I now use it for Marvel Rewatch. I'll have to go back to the old one we did and find out what I did for that.
Bye.
Bye.
Check out all our shows exclusively on thepodstation.co.uk.